Chapter 3 Knife River National Historic Site in North Dakota. May mornings in the Rough Rider State felt like winter days in Philly to Casey. Riding General P to work with his half-shell helmet made his cheeks feel like the inside of a freezer. He had unleashed a full beard in his final semester, and the thick bristles shielded the rest of his face. He parked his bike on the side of the visitor center next to his coworker's gov ride, swapped his helmet for his Stetson hat, and let his helmet dangle from the handlebar. A canopy of white satin clouds stretched from the horizon over the rolling plains. He entered the back of the visitor center to the sound of a news anchor yakking away on a local radio show. His coworker piped the show into the office every morning before the doors opened for visitors. She was sitting on a tall metal stool, the kind with a lever on the side that turns the stool into an amusement ride if you engage the lever while butt in seat. "Morning, Ranger Beekler." "And a fine morning to you, Junior Ranger Clay." "You and your Junior Ranger bit." Casey plopped down on a stool next to her. "I bet you use that line on all your new temps each summer." She was chomping on pretzels while she typed at her computer. "Want some?" "It feels like I consume your cracked pretzels every time I use that shared computer. There's so much butter and salt on the keys I'm forced to use Gojo mechanic soap to get it off my fingers. Worse than eating a bag of Cheetos." "Well, that's half the point with Dot's Pretzels. It's like the gift that keeps giving. That's why it's North Dakota's official state carb." Casey opened his backpack. "Brought you some fruit to go with your breakfast." He slid a bag of huckleberry licorice toward her. Beekler shrieked and her stool moaned when she shifted her girth to grab the candy. "Love these things. Now we can turn these pretzels into trail mix." She surfaced a large metal bowl out of a hidden cavity under the desk like a magician pulling out a rabbit. She poured the long tube of pretzels into the bowl and covered it with the purple gooey sticks of licorice. Shaking the bowl for good measure, she stretched it out toward Casey. He hesitated for a second. "I feel like that's a heart attack in a bowl right there." He could smell the butter from the pretzels. "Oh, what the hell." He grabbed a fistful and bit into it. "Delicious, right?" Beekler went in on the mix as soon as Casey's fingers cleared the bowl's edge. "You know I'm eligible to retire next year. I think I might use my thrift savings plan and pension to start a trail mix company here in Chokecherry. We could call it Heart Attack Trail Mix of the Heartland." Little wordy, Casey said through a mouthful. "Any work emails worth reading this morning?" He glanced at her computer screen and saw she was replying to an email. She swiveled the screen away from him. "I'm emailing your father. He's checking up on you." "Great." Casey rolled his eyes. "Tell him his punishment is working. Central North Dakota feels like purgatory." "How are your briefing skills these days, by the way?" Casey raised an eyebrow. "Why do you ask?" Beekler looked away. "No reason." "Okay, well, tell my father thanks for teaming me up with one of his spies. You do an excellent job reporting my every move." "Hey, it's not all bad. In fact, your father told me all about the Red Dog Rescue Program you set up in Yellowstone. That was quite the achievement, young man. How many buffalo calves did you save?" Casey had created the program in his freshman year of high school. It had taken him over a year to organize and launch. He'd learned all about the strict regulations and laws involved with wild animal care, and it had taken the political capital of his father as Yellowstone superintendent and close oversight of the park's deputy to make the program operational. They settled on the program name Red Dog Rescue. Red Dog was the nickname for baby bison because of their orange-red hair at birth. The first rescue had occurred his sophomore year, and the program had run all through his senior year of high school. A dozen the first year, 2 dozen the second, and another 30 the final year before I left for college. Look at you go. I could tell your father was proud of you and the rescue program when we talked about it. "Must not have been a recent conversation," Casey mumbled. "It was last week. Look, I've known Goodwin Clay since before you were born, Sonny." She waved a pretzel in his face. "We came into the Park Service together back in '89. 34 years ago now. Wow, time sure does fly by." Beekler stared off in the distance. "You should be proud of him, too. You know how much shit you have to shovel to get to his level?" "Trust me, I experienced his ascent up the mountain every step of the way. Moving us every other year our entire childhood, protecting some monument in a big city one year, out in the middle of a wilderness the next. Got to where we wouldn't even hang family photos anymore because we just have to take them down and patch the holes for our next move. The only exception was his 4-year stint as superintendent in Yellowstone. Otherwise, we moved nonstop. Part of the territory with this career." She looked down at the MPS patch on her shirt. "You do it for the mission, and our mission sends us all over the country to protect some amazing places. Like North Dakota for me or DC for my dad and family. At least Nolan has scored a neat assignment in northern Minnesota," he thought, until he shook the thought away. "Well, you've got a point about DC. Might be me up in the director's seat instead of your father if I could stand living there." She shuddered. The one summer I spent in D.C. on temp work was a living nightmare. Driving on the beltway is like getting gangbanged twice a day, 5 days a week for as long as you can survive it. I tapped out after 4 months. I swear I kissed my girly figure goodbye, stress eating on that godforsaken beltway of doom. Which suburb is your family living in? Old Town Alexandria. Oh, well, that can be charming if you don't have to commute. My sister hates it. We all make sacrifices. Beekler hit send on her email and turned toward him. She had a marshmallow face with enormous eyes like a panda bear. Aren't you proud of your father? He's only the second ever African-American director, and he was sworn in with little opposition from either side of the aisle. Quite the legacy, I guess, Casey mumbled. He turned his attention to the closing of the news program. Well, that's a wrap on today's show. This has been Chip Wanamaker with Nodak News. You stay legendary, North Dakota. Beekler mimicked the last line in unison with the anchor and hummed the jingle at the end of the show. As messed up as Choke Cherry is right now, that new anchor, Chip, has a way of making the news seem a little less terrifying. Not sure how you can listen to that show. It's the same every day. There's a daily homicide or two, a car crash here, a burglary there. It reminds me of the news in Philly. Tried to block that out during school, but even our campus news at Temple read like a murder mystery novel. We'd hear gunshots late at night around campus and would wait and wonder if one of our classmates took a bullet. Don't get me started on the mean streets of Philly. I could tell you stories for days about the winter I spent protecting our dear Liberty Bell. You've already told me your Philly war stories, Casey thought. I pray I never get old. Oh, speaking of bullets, Beekler continued, I could have sworn I heard a series of gunshots this morning when I was coming into the office, down by Knife River. When you get settled, why don't you head down to Village Trail and look around before we open? Try not to spend too much time though. Could be a busy day today with folks off for Memorial Day. And don't make me give all the tours this morning. We've had like 3 visitors since I started here 2 weeks ago. Memorial Day or not, I don't think that'll be a problem. Plus, we have some stiff competition with that new Teddy Roosevelt roller coaster launching at the Rough Rider theme park this weekend. I'm half tempted to bug out early to try it. Beekler brought her hands back to the keyboard. Let me make a note of that to Director Clay. All right, relax. I'll go look right now. Casey sprang to his feet. Probably some kid at a nearby farm shooting at beavers. Hold on. Beekler produced a Ziploc bag that Casey swore she pulled from her inside shirt sleeve. She shoveled in her trail mix and handed it to Casey with a smile. Is that new Heart Attack trail mix of the Heartland? How'd you know? It's my favorite. Hey, it's gonna be a winner, I tell you. I can hear Chip Wanamaker on Nodak News right now. Longtime Govey transforms overnight into Choke Cherry's newest business mogul. She looked as serious as an actual heart attack. You know, Dot's Pretzels sold their soul to Hershey for over $1 billion. A path's been paved. I'll look out for you on Shark Tank. Casey pocketed the mix in the cargo pocket of his pants, then ventured outside to see what mystery awaited him on the hollow grounds of the Knife River Indian villages.